Alright guys, the stream has started. So right now you're seeing my splash screen. Sitting goes with Colin Moshman, but that title does not tell the complete story because with us today we have a very special guest star who kindly volunteered to come on. And so please welcome 6 Max expert Iliev.
Hi,
Iliev.
Moshman. Thank you for inviting me to your coaching. I'm very happy to be part of it and definitely look forward to things that are going to happen tonight. Hopefully
Okay.
some interesting spots will happen
Some
for
interesting
everybody
spots, some
following.
interesting conversation, definitely.
Yeah, exactly.
So I have a number of questions to pose to you, but I'll just say first, everyone, that you should be able to see right now a few tables that have been loaded, and if you guys need us to change anything in terms of the video or the audio, just let me know, and we can definitely get that done. So, Liev, if you wouldn't mind, tell us a little bit about your background in poker and the games that you play on PokerStars.
Sure, Colin, sure. I basically started playing professionally, I started playing a year and a half ago. I had a coach who was part and who is still a part of Poker Strategy. He is a member. He's a sit and go player, Gerovit. He is actually a guy from Niš, from my town, and I was involved in coaching and staking with him for a year and a half, where we basically played the different formats of sit and go and hyper turbos and everything. So yeah, that's basically how it started. Started with 9 max. I switched to 6 max, and not really a big fan of MTTs because of variants. So I just basically stick to 6 max turbos, and I found myself in that game. I think it's very profitable to play this game, and there is tons of edges in not only low stakes, but also I believe mid stakes are have tons of edges and are really good to exploit, as a lot of opponents haven't studied the game enough even to today's date. So really look forward to the future of this game overall.
Okay. I do have a few follow-up questions, but just checking the chat here to make sure that people can see and hear okay first. And a couple of people are saying they have issues, but most are able to see okay. So let me just copy and paste the link one more time.
Sure.
So KennyXX and Lord Phil, could you guys put in the way you're seeing this here? So I'll add in this other link as well. Okay. Okay, so you were talking about 6 Max specifically and the edges to be found there. So you've played other formats, you were saying, including MTT. How did you come to settle on 6 Max, and what do you think the advantage is to playing that compared to full ring and other formats?
Yeah, basically the difference for me between 6 and 9 max is quite simple. It's the edges that people can have post flop, and it's actually for me much closer to real poker in terms of when you go to play some, for example, live cash game somewhere, or if you were involved into some sort of tournament play. And that's basically what I really, really like about 6 max. There is a lot more pre-flop action. On 15s, you won't see too much 3-betting pre-flop. On 30s already, there are some regs who are actually constructing their 3-bet bluff and 3-bet value ranges pretty decent. So I think that's really where a lot of edge lies. People, even in today's games, are not doing really well when it comes to constructing defend ranges, opening ranges, 3-betting, 4-betting for bluff, adjusting, readjusting, all that, which is basically really, really important to have an edge on your opponents in today's games, which I think are not that thin edges, to be honest. There can be a lot more things that can be done, like a thin value betting, double, triple barreling for bluff and things like that,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Now, I do have a follow-up question on that, but first, tell us about this 9-3 off open. What stats did you see in your opponent that you thought was going to be profitable to open ATC?
Okay, yeah. So in the third line, you can see here I have a second stat, which is called BB versus SB, basically stat, which means just how much percentage the opponent folds. And in the late game, that needs to be like 50% for min raise to work with auto profit. Since I'm doing 2.5x, this guy's more than capable of, he's folding more than he needs to for me to make auto profit there as well. Also, I think I have a lot of post-flop edge, even out of position. That hand obviously doesn't play well, right? It's nine deuce off, but still, I can represent a lot of things on a lot of different boards. Once I raise pre-flop, I can do a lot of check raising. I can do floating. I can do different things on different boards that I think hit my perceived range much more than the opponents. And
Okay.
this guy just fits. He looks like a fit or fall type of guy.
Right,
We
right.
might run into a set here, I was going to say, but okay, we ran into a into top two or second top two, whatever. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
another reg that we play. I've been playing him whole day today. I think of like 10 heads ups that we were in, I won 7 or 8. So he
Sweet.
is probably, flatting everything against me and hoping to hit like that. We can discuss that hand in brief detail. Basically, I had top pair, top kicker. Flop was very draw heavy in terms of flush draw and straight draw. I decided to, to bet and obviously bet call his raise. I think here he's 3-betting 9% blind versus blind, and here I'm just 4-betting with the idea of calling 5-bet. I think he will jam ace jack plus, and nines are definitely ahead of his even ace 10. So if he has like a tens plus here, then obviously we are behind. But in his stats here for 3-bet, that's the same reg that beat us in the previous hand, if you remember, where we had ace king and he
Yep.
had king 7 suited. Yeah. So I don't like his play there very much. It's 50 blinds deep. Obviously to 4-bet, he's in position. When he 5-bet jams there, I don't think he knows what my 4-bet range is in terms of I have to have a lot of bluffs also there. And definitely he's never happy when when we are getting it in 50 blinds deep. Ace king is a strong hand, but because it's still early game, he could still rely on a lot of post-flop edge, And that basically goes to what we were talking about in the beginning. So, yeah, I think people are not using phases appropriately in terms of early game. They should be able to play much more post-flop, materialize their edges, and basically, take advantage of their opponent's ranges. This way, this guy who is actually, I think, he's from Serbia also. He's one of the better regs on regular speeds, but when you see this kind of play, like 50 blinds deep, getting it in with ace queen, you really wonder if he is playing, correct game post-flop, because I don't see ever a reason why you should get it in, unless your opponent gives you reasons. For example, if he knew that I was 4-betting really, really wide, then he can definitely jam it because I would have a bluffing range there. But I'm always repping when I 4-bet a tight range, so he's never happy. He could have flatted to that 4-bet if he didn't hit ace or king, just play fit or fold, And this way he lost a whole tournament, so yeah.
Okay. Well, we can definitely discuss, getting it in ranges more. I wanted, though, for a moment to go back to what you were saying about typical leaks of 6-max players. And you think that 6-max guys in general are making more systematic mistakes compared to full-ring players?
Well, it really depends, because in 6-max the ranges I think are wider, and therefore it becomes really important to learn how to construct them. Defend ranges, 3-bet for value, 3-bet for bluff. And this is something that not a lot of sit-and-go teachers or sit-and-go videos actually go in depth. It's more like, okay, here's a table, you should open these hands, 3-bet for value, and it pretty much finishes there, And I think 6-max players who play sit-and-goes it's not really their fault. I want to defend them. I don't want to just be the one who is attacking those guys, you know? So, yeah, I don't really think that they're doing that many mistakes in terms of what can happen in the future. If they had some cash game video background or took some coaching with cash game guys or even heads up coaches, I think they would do way better in terms of their pre-flop plan. So I think the biggest leak on these limits on 15s, and I've seen on 30s way too many nit type of regs who don't defend wide, you know, who are waiting for the late phase to play Nash and stuff. I think that's like the number one leak, pre-flop plan. I don't think many regs have pre-flop plan designed correctly, you know.
Okay. So someone was asking, this is Moshman. Tony PMM points out that the person talking with a Serbian accent is our special guest Iliev, and the other person who occasionally gets in a word is me, your favorite Colin Moshman.
That's awesome.
I think that what you're saying definitely makes a lot of sense. And you know, one thing that I've talked about before when it comes to full ring versus six max is that if you're, for example, too tight defending or too tight on the button in full ring, pardon me, it's definitely a leak. But it's not nearly as big a leak as it is compared to six max when those positions come around much more often.
Yeah, exactly. Because in six max the ranges naturally extend. Therefore, you need to take advantage of what you know what your opponents are doing to exploit them. And in nine max people open tight and they call tight, generally speaking. So yeah, I think you won't have that much trouble 9 max, especially post flop, you know. Many times opponents will have a type of hand that's actually good post flop. You know, they will have over pairs, sets, and things like that. And 6 max, you will not have that many spots. So, yeah.
Okay. Now, I want to go back to this ace-king hand for a second because we had a question about it. And so the first thing, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page, you open button, he 3-bet from the blinds, and you guys got it in, correct?
It was blind versus blind. Yeah.
Okay.
If so, we are talking about the nines versus ace-king, right?
Yeah, you really think that blind versus blind, it's a mistake for him to get in ace-king versus you?
Nope. I was just talking about dynamics in the early game when we are basically dealing with, with the 75 blinds deep stacks. When somebody 4-bets you, it's usually wrapping really, really strong range. And when we talk about that, it really means that, you know, you should be more cautious. Of course, ace-king is going to be jam against anybody, you know. But I meant that for 75 blinds deep, he could have also flatted to the 4-bet.
Okay.
And if he didn't hit ace or king, he could have just, you know, played sit or fold and continue.
That flatting the 4-bet would have been more profitable than 5-betting.
Against me, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, that brings us to a question from Gadget51. He says, do you think, Iliev, that the reason people make plays like that is because they're not as comfortable post-flop, and it just seems easier to move the decision-making to pre-flop?
Yeah, I definitely agree with Gadget there. And I think that's one of the main problems with 6-max players overall, because they play 6-max turbos like they're playing 6-max hypers, you know? If you don't feel that you have post flop edge, then you shouldn't really get yourself into that type of game or you know, get to studying it, you know. The whole idea there is to learn to play correctly pre-flop. And the thing what they do there can actually burn them quite a lot of money, you know. What would have if we're talking about general tendencies, this guy Chika Steve, you know, this guy from Serbia that we busted with nines versus ace-king, he's not a general tendency type of guy. He's a regular. He plays probably 100 games a day. He's a guy who multi-tables, who gets into a lot of bubbles, heads-ups. So this guy should have a pretty strong game plan, you know? And when we see things like that, it really shows me that pre-flop, his plan in the early game is not really that good, in my opinion, you know? I could be wrong again. I'm just saying how I would play that hand, you know?
Yeah, so, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, Rick, for me, I would fairly commonly in my games against a lot of regs, if they open the small blind, I'm in big blind with ace king. I would three bet and then five bet it off. But I definitely agree with what you're saying that you shouldn't automatically make decisions like that, and that there are plenty of spots where say five betting and stacking off could be profitable, but flatting might be more
Mhm.
profitable in position. So it's definitely very interesting.
Yeah, thanks, Colin.
So tell us
We
you.
didn't have too many spots to discuss regarding pre-flop and post-flop. Like this could be one of them because we are only 20 blinds deep, and this guy doesn't three bet blind versus blind. He only three bets 7%. An ace 10 here, unfortunately, is a fold,
Okay.
because we always expect sevens and ace jack there. So when we know that the opponent is doing that, let's see, this is a three bet pot. He could have here a lot of pocket pairs. If we call now, we must call the river as well. So I'm not too happy about that spot, actually. Yeah, I'm just going to give it up. He seems aggressive, but we only have 20 hands, and it doesn't really show us anything in terms of if he is really that aggressive or not.
Right, right.
Because the people who defend button, they defend also a lot of pocket pairs, like mid pocket pairs. They also defend things like connectors. He could have defended like 8x, 9x type of hands that connect really well with flops. Things like, one gappers, two gappers, and things like that. So here's one interesting spot. I mean, we have ace king. We've been talking about ace king, and this guy we have already 90 hands on. So I think here it's very profitable to just jam because it's first out of 8 times that he three bet us. So I think it's easy spot to get our money in there. And he folded ace jack. Wow. I did not expect that. And
The,
I definitely didn't think click three betting and folding is a good play there. You know?
what do you think about four betting smaller in that spot? You make it two, he makes it three, correct? What do you
Yeah,
think
yeah.
about making it, I don't know, 750, 850, something like
Yeah,
that?
that's another way to go. But the reason why I jammed is because it was his very first three bet versus us. So I expected him to have, always a hand there that he, by the way, this is a jam, 13 BB jam from button. Yeah, so versus him, when we see that we already have some hands there, I think that, we should be doing that stuff.
Okay, perfect. So, question from the chat from Less Than Three. He writes,
Uh,
what are some things you are struggling with or working on at the moment to move up to higher stakes?
The things that I'm working with, well, there is quite a lot of things that I'm working on. One of them, like the main thing that I'm doing to be ready, is basically constructing four bet ranges in different phases, like 1530, 2550. 5100 is not that hard because once I get reads that opponents are, three betting wide, we pretty much can four bet any two cards because they are never, except especially on this limit, people who three bet wide, like aggressive regs, they don't extend their four bet calling range. I know only one guy who is really good at that, and I'm going to mention him. His nick is exclusive. He's a Russian guy. He also plays 30s. I've seen him call my four bet with fives in the late game. And that's something that I've never seen anybody else do. And I really have to give hats off to that guy because he is understanding the dynamics between three betting and four betting. And I think there is a lot of value in that in late game. In
Okay.
terms of ICM, I'm doing race calling a lot. Like I'm really studying those micro stacks sizes, something that a lot of hyper six max guys know really well, the guys who chase Supernova Elite. And I think, especially in bubble, when you're like, for example, 15 blinds deep and you have guys with 9 and 7 blinds deep, it's not just profitable to shove if you have a hand or don't shove when you don't. It's really important to also have race calling wide range there if people are jamming for 7 BB, wider hands and stuff. So I'm learning a lot about being committed there for less than 10 BBs when I'm, min raising and playing my aggressive game in bubble and pre-bubble and stuff like that.
Okay. Just to get back for 1 second to what you were saying about the 3-bet, 4-bet dynamic. So
Mhm.
basically, if you have someone who's 3-betting a lot, then you're saying a lot of these guys are unbalanced. You can exploit them because they're 3-betting a lot, but they're not correspondingly calling it off wider, so you can profitably 4-bet shove a very wide range.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay, very interesting.
Yep.
So Tony PMM writes, if they indeed fold ace-jack to a 4-bet shove, shouldn't we widen our 4-bet range to something like suited connectors and broadways?
Interesting. Yeah, so definitely when they're folding, we should widen our 4-bet range, and it actually goes to broadways. Now, the interesting thing there is it really depends on the effective stack. So, for example, if our effective stack is really deep in terms of like 30, 50 blinds deep and stuff, I don't really see the need to 4-bet jam or, to 5-bet jam different things. I really like playing post-flop with hands that flop well. By the way, this is the guy, if you remember, when we had ace-jack in a 3-bet pot that we were unsure of at the beginning of the session, and now he just spewed with ace-9. So we basically waited for our chance there.
Nice,
we did a good
nice.
job. We paid it off. We got paid off there. Cool. Yeah, so that's basically, Tony is absolutely right. You can extend your 4-bet jamming range to not only broadways and suited connectors, but basically, depending on the stack depth, you can even shove everything that you min-raise or open in the late game. But the thing is, if you run into a good reg on this depth, oh, this is an easy call. He's 3-betting versus this guy who is opening fairly wide. So I think ace-10 is a Nash call when he 3-bets there. Yep. Oh, top of the range. Let's see. Did we shop? No. New table. We reached some status on Poker Strategy. Actually, on Poker Stars, at just some points. So yeah, Tony is right. But I prefer when we are 30 plus being blinds deep. I really like playing post flop there. Like, I can't stress how much I love post flop. It's just ridiculous how much I would do that all day long.
Okay,
I like
fantastic.
jamming here ace-8 suited simply because this guy has shown us that he's going really, really wide. So when he min raises, I don't expect him to just have, strong hands. He
I
will
mean,
definitely
he's,
have
play,
weakness.
he's playing 73-36. It's going to be tough to argue at that point.
It's self-explanatory for that guy, yeah.
Okay,
Did
so
he have- Yeah, sure. go
it's great. You're telling the action, which is awesome. But the problem is that there are too many questions I need to ask you. So I'm just
Sure,
going to
go for
charge
it.
through and keep on going with them. You said a number of times you love to play post flop, and that's great. A lot of Sunday Go players do not love to play post flop. So if we have someone listening to this who wanted to improve their post flop skills, what would you recommend they do?
First thing that I did to improve my post flop was looking at 200 hands per day that got to showdown, So not necessarily the hands that I won or lost, just hands that got to showdown. And I was paying attention. It was limp pots, it was 3-bet pots, it was multi-way pots. I was paying attention if I was losing value in some places. So checking, I basically was writing down my thinking process. Things like, okay, pre-flop here I could have isolated because opponent is, folding to ISO this much, or post-flop I could have done that because I think double or triple barrel would have been much more profitable. In general, when it comes to material to study for post-flop, I think a lot of the videos from Plano and MBML really, really opened my eyes up. Like, I was amazed with how much material I actually learned from those guys. Yeah, this is a spot where we have to fold because we are second stack. And I could have checked it was a showdown value type of hand. I mean, we had equity turned to river, so I could have checked there, but I decided to bet because overcard ace is a really good card that hits our range.
Right, right. So
So
Plano1 is an amazing player, but he's primarily a cash player. So you're saying even though you're playing sit and goes, you're watching his cash vids to learn post flop ideas.
absolutely,
Okay,
absolutely.
well
All
that's
his
great.
Zoom
That's very
videos are
interesting.
amazing. Yeah, he's just amazing guy. MBML also, they have slightly different approach, but I think he is very very profitable guy there. I'm just thinking of jamming here. There isn't much that beat us here, so yeah, I think Ace is going to pay us off. This is just ISO 2.5x, something that I learned from Heads Up Hypers. Before I used to jam over limp, but now I have a range that also is a bluff range there for 10 BB. It's not just a, value range there. So, yeah.
Okay, great. And I definitely want to say I think that's really smart. I think a lot of people wouldn't necessarily think to watch videos in a different format. But when it comes to post flop, cash guys do tend to have the most experience in that, so that makes a lot of sense. And I think to anyone looking to improve the post flop game, that's a very nice outside the box suggestion.
Yep. I agree. I totally
Now,
agree.
let's back up for 1 second. You were talking a little bit about this other reg and how many games he played. So tell us a little bit about the basics. Like, how many tables do you normally play? Are they stacked or tiled? What kind of software do you have running? Stuff like that.
Okay, sure. Basically, I'm playing before I switched to Poker Tracker 4 a couple of days ago. I was playing on Hold'em Manager 1, and I got used to it. I was playing on it for 2 years or something. So I think I was doing before I got to 17 tables. Actually, your video is on my desktop. I
Oh,
have it. I
great.
watched it yesterday. It's amazing video. I've
Oh,
been
thank you very
recommending
much.
it to a lot of people, and it's one of the things that I was doing gradually. I learned it the hard way. I was playing more tables than I was supposed to because my game plan was not good enough. I had 4 leaks while I was chasing Supernova last year, and that's a lot when you play 24, 25,000 games. That actually adds up in a lot of money that you can lose post flop. So once I sat down in October, November, and did the work like this post flop I was talking about, studied heads up from heads up hyper videos, did the work in this whole. Just a second, I just want to load the heads up profile here. Yeah. So yeah, we were talking about different tables. Yeah, now I do 17 tables. Unfortunately, with this new HUD and everything, I cannot do 17 tables yet. I will need like a week to adjust to it. I don't think it's going to be really really good thing to do because it will cost me money. I will time out and things. I'm just thinking because this guy is realist, I'm going to flat against really aggro guys. I'm going to 4-bet not only in ace-9 suited because we have a blocker, and it's something that I tend to do a lot.
Yeah. Can you kind of explain to us like what just happened in this upper left table? You switched profiles. This very elaborate HUD popped up. What's going on here?
Yeah, I'm basically using something that my heads up hyper coach gave me, which is it's called Coffee HUD. It's used by heads up hyper guys to to play heads up hypers, and it basically has different stats for different blind depths. I can go over the whole stat. The way that I designed it is has pre-flop for big blind and small blind, and you can see for different blind depths there. But let's just pull it off. So yeah, let's just move it here to make it easier in the middle for everybody to see. Unfortunately, this guy three-bet shoves. We're going to finish this heads up. Yeah, I hope we get to another heads up soon. But basically, yeah, what's happening with that HUD is, yeah, you have different blind depths, and you can see what opponent is flatting, what he's three-betting all in, what he's three-betting non-all in. You can see also what opponent is doing when it comes to limping. How is he reacting to your limping range, to ISO limping, and things like that. Post flop also bunch of stats. What is he check raising? Is he c betting a lot? basically a lot of useful stats that can help you exploit your opponent's heads up. So I didn't use that until a month ago. I was using this basics HUD that I used before for sit and goes, and now I'm using it, and I feel like I've been born again. So many more edges post flop. So yeah, definitely.
Okay.
Definitely
Now, with both the
recommend it.
coffee HUD and your normal HUD, these are very elaborate HUDs. Even your normal HUD is a four-line HUD. So be honest with the viewing audience here. Do you actually use all of these stats, or are some of them just kind of on the HUD, but you rarely make use of them?
Actually, the funny thing is my HUD is even bigger than this. Like when I was using Hold the Manager one,
What?
it was 5 or 6 lines with 5 stats each. But because I'm not familiar with the Poker Tracker 4 yet, this is the me making this easier to follow. So yes, to answer your question, I'm using everything.
Wow.
I'm getting used to. The first column is VPAP PFR, and aggression factor, number of blinds, and number of hands. I think everybody uses that pretty much one way or the other in the first column. Second column is really important to me because I play a lot of regs on 15s, and it really helps me decide if I will 3-bet them or 4-bet them and things like that. So second column is total 3-bet, which actually comes out in pop-up, 3-bet pre-flop, and 3-bet versus late position steal, which is really important in the late game. When I open cutoff or button, I want to see how much people are 3-betting me from blinds, which is super useful in terms of exploiting them, maybe raise calling wider and things like that. Second stat is fold to 3-bet, and that's really important for me to use 3-bet as a weapon for them to fold a lot pre-flop. And as you see, a lot of guys fold. This green number for me tells me that I can immediately make a profit when I 3-bet them with any two. And you see a lot of guys with it, going back to the pre-flop plan, that a lot of regs actually don't have a decent pre-flop plan. What hands to flat, what hands to 4-bet, what hands to do this, to do that. So yeah, 3-betting is really powerful weapon on 15s and something that I use a lot. If somebody starts to 3-bet me a lot, the good news is I have this stat here, which is a 4-bet. So I basically check how much they're 4-betting pre-flop, and then I calculate in my head, for example, if it says 4-bet 10%, an opponent is opening whatever 20%, that means that they're pretty much 4-betting only 2% of hands, which is really nuts.
Right.
So I can still continue to 3-bet them all day long until they readjust and extend their 4-betting ranges. But then I extend my 5-bet range, and it's really fun that way. I find it like being in the kindergarten and playing with kids,
Okay.
with 3-bet, 4-bet.
I like that.
I don't think a lot of regs like me because of that. I probably took a lot of buy-ins with, with the people calling me really tight, and I maybe 5-bet jam, whatever, nines. And in that case, they had ace king, like probably that Serbian guy who we beat in one of the sit and goes with nines, blind versus blind. I don't think he's happy that he saw nines there in the 5-bet. But that's how I construct my ranges, and I think it's a correct way to do so when you're playing today's games. So yeah.
Okay. Well, very nice description of the HUDs and all the information that can be gotten from those. And KennyXX points out that there's a free light version of the coffee HUD in the PT4 warehouse. Tony PMM writes pre-drag. I'll mispronounce. Tell me again. Predrag?
Predrag, yes.
Predrag.
Yes.
And
it's close enough.
Tony even gave me a guide to some Serbian pronunciation before this, so I shouldn't be getting any of it wrong. But he writes, do you use something like Pro Poker Tools Hand vs. Range Next Street Equity Breakdown or Equilab to analyze post-flop, draw, floating, and semi-bluffing spots?
That's really interesting. The thing that I'm going for next is basically getting card runners, EV, Flopzilla, and things like that. But what I've been doing so far is just using Poker Strategy Equilab. I pull it off here. It's in the second screen. Maybe now guys can see it. And in it, you can basically see number of combos, which is super important. And by looking at number of combos that I open or that opponent opens, I can actually, your video calling is really good on that. I watched it on post flop It's really old video, but super good. It's called Bluffing in Sit and Goes, I believe. And in that video, you describe on what kind of boards it's profitable to double, to triple barrel. And you actually, your final hand of that video is really interesting when you talked about calling versus opponent who is really aggressive and who is turning hands into bluff and things like that. So that's basically what I did. I'm always thinking in perceived ranges. What is opponent's opening range? Like if this guy is opening cutoff 17%, then he's not perfect guy to 3-bet, This ace-3 hand, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? I mean, we just called because we had obviously a strong hand there. We don't expect 18, 13 to always bet their stronger ace, obviously. Just a second here. C-betting in this 3-bet pot because we have king high. We want to fold ace high here if it's possible. 7 is a total blank when he calls on flop. I believe he will call turn also, so I just prefer checking there and check folding, obviously. Now, if he knows that I do that, he can float flops and he can obviously dominate me very hard in 3-bet pots.
Well,
but hopefully I will readjust,
He does also, though, fit the profile of a recreational player. He's playing 38-23. He's showing his phone or iPad icon. So I don't know how much he's going to adjust. Do you think that in a spot like that, say that you're coaching someone and they said that they would just always fold in a spot like that, would you tell them that was too tight, or do you think that it's more stylistic?
I think it's more stylistic, yeah.
Okay.
It's more stylistic, definitely. I think there is really no need. Again, we're going back to the game plan. It's 15-30. There is no need at that point to go into crazy post-flop adventures versus recreational player, because I'm not playing versus recreational player who can say, okay, this guy IvicaIliev is thin value betting eights here by double barreling, and I must fold my ace high. He has an ace high and he's never folding it. Or even if he has a middle pocket pair on that paired flop, he's never folding it also. So yeah, I think here without equity, I don't like raising. That small bet and heads up always is for value. In sit and goes, it happens that sometimes it's actually bluff. He bets 1/5 of the pot. Obviously, that's like really super thin and small. But overall, oops, sorry. Yep. Okay, that's some phone. Doesn't matter. Yeah. Okay. So this is like one of the spots for post flop. I think this guy plays really wide. We only have a couple of hands. But I prefer, 3-betting this hand. It's great hand to play post-flop. And just by calling, we give up our initiative. And yeah, this is even better when somebody 4-bet jams. We could have flatted that hand. It's good enough to flat. In cash game, definitely people flat Queen 9 suited versus cutoff. The problem with sit and goes is that people don't open nearly as wide as cash game players open in 6-max. So it's much better, in my opinion, from my experience, to 3-bet and make profit pre-flop than to get into a lot of spots where post-flop you will be playing against much tighter range. Therefore, you will be way more dominated when you flat hands that have good value to flat. Right, now, if you play against good players who open wide, then that's definitely flat. Let's see what this guy opens. Button only 13%. Wow. Yeah, so usually right there, that ace-5 off is for me automatic 3-bet in 25-50 from big blind. And of course, if a lot of regs know that, they can start 4-bet jamming. If they say, okay, if it says, 3-betting ace-5 off, that means that to 4-bet, he will fold all those small aces and I can do that. I encourage them all to try it. I will extend my call to 4-bet range, which is another reason why I accepted to do this with you, Colin, because many people would be afraid giving edges in today's games. I'm really not worried or...
I'm glad you said that. And I will say that I've had a couple of people who have said that they would love to do it, but they're too afraid of showing their game. And to me, if you're playing in such a static and predictable way that having people see a few of your games, you think they're just going to be able to exploit you, it's really not showing a lot of confidence in your game.
Yeah, exactly. I
So
totally agree.
I think
And
that your attitude is
if
great,
we're
that you're
playing this
confident you
for
can adjust.
if you play this for living, it's really, really bad, and I can't really even find words to describe if you're afraid of competition. Recently, I watched Phil Ivey video, and basically they asked him, "What do you think about, today's games? Like what's happening in them? Are you happy when you see good players in your games?" And he was like, "Yeah, that's what motivates me to play. That's what motivates me to push forward, to move forward, to actually increase my knowledge." And I think every regular or everybody who wants to make a living in poker should approach it that way. Shouldn't be afraid that, okay, now people saw me open nine deuce off. So what? If you think you can exploit me, go ahead, start three betting. I have a stat here that shows your blind versus blind three bet. If I see something that I like from your three betting, I'm going to start to four bet you. And then if you're not ready, you're going to lose money also. So it's a never-ending game of adjustments, and it's a tactical and strategical game. It's like chess in a way, or and I really like it because it's like that. If it was predictable and a solved game, everybody would be making millions and living somewhere on the beach and enjoying and having servants serve you drinks and everything. But this way, it's just for fun. So yeah, that's what I
Sweet.
think about that.
Well, you're a very confident guy like that. That's kind of how I associate Serbians in general. That they're sort of like a tough, confident people. Is that correct?
Yeah, I don't think you should associate me with general Serbian people because I spent like 7 years abroad, studying in America and in England, studying in Greece 1 year. So a lot of my life experiences and behavior and whole, let's call it cultural thing, the way that I adjust to people, the way that I'm easygoing. I like to think I'm easygoing anyways, but the way that I'm with people, it comes from living abroad on my own and doing chores on my own, knowing what I want in my life, how to get it, and things like that. I think in general, people in Serbia are really easygoing. If you come here for vacation, people are going to smile, always try to please you and aim, and here, if nothing, you're invited to come here and see for yourself. I don't like to give a false advertisement of any sort. So definitely, if you have ever time calling,
Well,
please
I would very
feel
much
free to
enjoy
stop
that.
by.
Now, let's say that I showed up at your doorstep and I said, Iliev, I'm here. I want to see Serbia. Like, what would you take me to see?
Oh, that's interesting. Well, it depends what kind of a person you are in terms of like let's put it this way. If you're more into cultural things, right? Then definitely I would take you to see in my town, for example, there is really old and famous fortress, where everybody who comes from abroad, they go and see it because during the invasion of Turks that lasted like 500 years, that fortress is really important for our culture. It was used to defend, uh, you know, Turks used it, and we have also another fortress where Turks used Serbian guys' heads for it. So it's like very brutal stuff, but it's really famous. I think it's like something that everybody who comes here needs to see. Just a quick note on this ace-6 hand. We had pair top kicker, but when we get raised in early game, I always expect to see either over pairs there, like sevens, eights, nines, whatever, or two overs or one over and a flush draw. So I'm immediately shutting down, turn and river and things
Right,
like that.
right.
So yeah, I
So,
just don't want us to miss also the hands
no,
as
you're
well.
right. All of my off-topic questions probably shouldn't distract too much from this strategy. But how is it? I'm always interested. We've had a lot of international players in these coachings, and is
Mhm.
Serbia a good place to play poker? When you tell people that you're a poker player, is it pretty generally accepted?
People here in Serbia, because economic is really economic situation is not good. People don't have jobs. There is high unemployment rate. People, a lot of them actually play this booking place, like gamble on games and stuff. So I think the bad side of telling people that you play poker, they immediately associate it with gambling. They say, "Oh, it's like playing betting on football games," you know. And I as a poker player, I don't like people thinking that I am, you know, not influencing my decisions on poker table, because that's really what you do when you pick a game. You know, you pick something and you hope that, you know, that coach or team or something is going to win for you. But when you play a poker game, you're actually making all your decisions on your own. So it's something that's really difficult to explain to general public, and I'm sure that you've seen that happen a lot of times, right? Here we have interesting spot. I could have shoved. He had 4 blinds here, and we have 2 overs and a flush draw. So I'm just basically getting it in here. I'm never folding there. Even when we are behind here, we have equity. Yeah. This is a run good coaching video.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. So yeah, definitely. If you have a chance to come to Serbia, come. Internet connection. If you're playing hypers and playing a lot of high stakes, I definitely recommend you to get backup internet connections. Last year, when I was playing a lot of tables, hypers on party poker, I think I lost like 1.5K in dollars, you know, from playing, from electricity going out once, and the most of the times it was just, you know, internet breakage or something.
Right, right.
So, yeah,
Now,
that's about it.
continuing on the topic of some more random stuff, but you know, you can learn a lot from people's Skype statuses. Like, for example, when we had Buhas on last week, he had Thug Life as his Skype status, and that led us to some interesting discussions. And you had something I thought was very interesting on your Skype status, which is that you will do jazz guitar lessons on webcam.
Yes,
So
that's
how did
something
that
that.
come about? Are
Go
you a professional musician in another life, or how did this start?
Yeah, that's actually my first life. Poker is now my second life. Music was like something that, you know, is my true passion. And for example, if in Serbia it was possible to make whatever, 2K dollars or euro playing jazz music, I would be doing jazz music. I wouldn't be playing poker, because music for me is much less stressful and something that I enjoy truly. Poker, it for me is a job. I love it. Don't get me wrong, but it's second love, you know. It's not my primary thing that I chose to do in my life. It's just that I sat down and I said to myself, okay, if you want to live in Serbia, you need to find a more secure job. Then I met Gerovit. I saw how he was making a living from sit and goes, and I approached him and I said, okay, would you be willing to coach me, stake me, get me to the level where I would make 700 euros a month? He said, sure, it will be no problem with your work ethic and everything. And a year and a half later, I established myself on 15 stars, making a living, and now doing coaching with Colin Mushman.
Okay,
The
great.
biggest accomplishment, I
Well,
think,
thank
so
you very
far.
much. And Gorovit is on this coaching railing you, it looks like.
Oh, awesome,
So
awesome.
big welcome to Gorovit. Now, I have to go back to a strategy question for 1 second, which is that if I saw correctly, you open limped King 10 off on the button.
Yeah, that's
Tell us
something that
about
I've
that.
been applying. Yeah, that's interesting, because before I would just min raise and fold, but I think that hand is too strong to min raise fold. Something that I learned from heads up hypers. So like even Queen 8 off is something that I past let's say past week or so. I've been using this strategy to limp stab, because a lot of people actually, I don't think even on 30s people have their ranges balanced when it comes to isolating versus limps, button limps. And I think that's something that starts at mid stakes, you know.
So,
So
what are the kinds of situations where you would look to open limp not in the small blind from the button or earlier?
from button or earlier, well, if we're talking just about bubble here, here we have interesting situation. Just a second.
Sure.
Just this text here. This is really interesting. So we have to be right have to call 800 for 3,000. I think that he can shove here, Jack X here, not only 10x. I'm never folding there, by the way, because it's a limped hand, and sure he can have 10x, but when he bets turn was blanked, it was deuce, you know. I think he is not wrapping much there, you know. He's just showing us that he's weak, in my opinion. So calling river there against this aggro fish, I think it's long term, it's a profitable play. So maybe I made a mistake here in the live coaching, but definitely something that I'm doing as a cheap leader, you know.
Sure,
So,
sure.
yeah.
So for open limping in late position, basically the main consideration is when it's sort of the less of all evils, right? Like if you min raise, you're going to get shoved on a lot and you don't want to raise fold, but it's not a profitable open shove. Those are the kinds of situations you're going to look to open limp.
Yeah, exactly. Because when I see passive players sitting on blinds, it's much better to limp. You can min raise, but the real thing here that we have to consider is why would we turn really strong hands that play well post flop like king 10 off? Why would you turn it into raise fold? You know, it's just not profitable to do that long term. So I think it's something to consider. When it comes to limping trash, I'm going to be honest with you, I haven't constructed ranges to limp trash to tell you like right now from top of my head, okay, calling here, you know, for 15 blinds deep, I'm limping 20% of hands that flop well and 10% of this trash, you know. That's not something, I haven't gotten that far yet, but that's something where I'm going definitely in the near future. And I think people who play hypers, who play 30s, 60s, who play Supernova Elite, that's something that they know or that they are working on as we speak. Because I'm in contact with a lot of players and I basically overheard what they're doing in those games and it makes a lot of sense. Like right here, this hand, Jack 9 off, it flops great. We have Mira XOXO, which is a reg, who is a reg, good friend of mine. And just a second, this guy opens 50%. We only have 5 hands. So realize this is a flat ace-3 off. Ace-5 off is a 3-bet shove for 20 BB deep. Yeah, so Jack-9 off flops well. If somebody isolated me, I would definitely flat because we are playing from button, you know. And now when this guy calls, he can have 8x in his range. I think King X hands, this guy seems a bit passive. 27-18, he has a gap. So I think small kings, he would also check behind. And we're just shutting down hand there with Jack High. We cannot win against anything. Flush also came and things like that. So yeah.
Okay. Yeah, very nice description of that. Your coach and mentor is saying that I should refer to you as Little Devil. Is that true?
Yeah, because we have in Serbian, Girovic used to call me Predraže. It's like Predrag, you know. Predraže Mali Vraže. Mali Vraže means little devil, and it just because it rhymes, it sounds really cool. And also we have some stories with, you know, talking to waitresses and a lot of good times in the city where basically a lot of blackouts happened. So yeah, that's something that why he and other my friends like to call me little devil, you know. Yeah. Here I don't like calling. We have ace high, which is showdown value, but this Jack 10x flop hits opponent's range pretty hard. And he can even bet here 10x. He can bet flush draws. I don't like bluff catching with a third pair here, so I'm just giving it away.
Okay, perfect. So you mentioned to me on Skype that you really wanted to be a poker strategy coach, correct?
Yes, that's one of my goals for near future. I hope if Plano and other guys who make this decision think I'm, you know, good enough to be that would be really great.
Well, you have great results. You're very articulate. So you have a lot of things going for you. But if we have anyone from Poker Strategy Brass listening to this, tell us, like, why would you be the best Poker Strategy 6-max coach?
I don't think that's a good question for you to ask me because here's what I think. Just a second. This guy is only min raising 50%. We only have We get awesome price to 3-bet jam when he 3x's, but I think when he 3x's, he has more value range than bluff, you know. So ace deuce, believe it or not, is a fold. 20 BB deep, we can still play heads up and dominate this guy. So back to your question, yeah. Why do I think I'm suitable for 6-max coach? Well, I haven't seen enough 6-max sit and go videos. So that's something that while I was in coaching and staking with Gerovit, we went through the whole database of poker strategy. A lot of the videos that I learned from were from basically less than 3, but they are 2-3 years old. Other guys that have made it, I've seen videos from you, Colin, but most of them are really, really, really old in terms of time. Like they are not in today's games. Up until recently, I've seen that you've, Colin, done some videos that are actually live play on 15s and things like that. But speaking of general, like if we had some beginner that wanted to go through the 6-max and do a lot of the things there, I think that there isn't enough material. I'm not saying I would be the best. I'm far from the best. But I think I can contribute a lot with material for today's games. So that's something I think I would be contributing to poker strategy community.
All right, great. Now I'll continue with that in just a moment, but a few people are saying the video does not work. So let me take a look and see if we can adjust this on TeamViewer here.
Sure. We can restart TeamViewer if you want. If that's something that will, you know, change
I think we're going to have to give that a shot. For me, it's updating. It maybe lagged for a moment. I think it's working now, guys, but if it's still not, let me know, and we'll go ahead and we'll restart TeamViewer and see if that works. So, no, the answer you gave was very good. I'm certainly not going to say that right now there's a ton of 6-max content out there. So, you know, besides the fact that it would be more 6-max on poker strategy, I think you'd be very good for that. So, hopefully for all the 6-max players out there, that'll work out.
Yes, I also hope so.
It's very true though. Like a lot of people are kind of tentative on this coaching, and you know they make a play and then they really don't know if it was sort of the right play. And I'm not blaming them. I'm not saying they're normally unconfident because it's tough when you're playing a lot of tables. You're talking with me and my random questions, but you definitely are very confident what you're doing, and that's great.
Yeah, thank you, Colin. I think I have a lot to thank Gerovit for that because I've done like gazillion sweat sessions with other students, and I've had to encounter what we are doing now. I had to encounter it in near future, in near past, sorry, not near future. This is really interesting hand. This guy is so passive, and he wins in showdown 60%. And folding here might be too weak, but when I see these passive guys, I really want to cry there. Maybe we can discuss that. He has missed flush draws there, but I don't think guys that play on tablet and have really low VPIP, PFR, I don't think these guys are our opponents to mess with, you know, when it comes to calling river light. That's something I also had before in the past. I was calling river too light. And definitely I corrected that leak. As you can see, it might be too nitty, but I think it's a good fold versus that guy. I think always we can show king queen off 3-bet because this guy opens a lot, and we want to take initiative post flop. 3-betting in 3-bet pots, I like c-betting 33% because of profitability post flop. We don't have to be correct or have hand that many times. But against these guys who are recreationals, who seem like recreational type players, I think betting more is going to scare him to fold ace-x, you know. It's just the logic behind it that I have versus recreational players. When you bet more, they believe you that you have it, you know.
Right.
When you
right.
bet less, they are afraid. And sometimes with regs, the same thing works. I think Mira XO is watching this coaching, you know, and I wrote him today about the coaching, and he said that he's going to watch it, and maybe he's going to exploit us now in the heads up, you know.
Well, if he's watching it, that's pretty scummy.
No, I don't think he's doing it. I don't think he would do that ever. I
Okay.
mean, why would he shove when we have 9-3 off, you know?
All right. Well, we'll see what's going. What's his poker strategy name?
I think it's the same,
Okay.
Mirag, so
All right. Well, he doesn't seem to be in the
yeah.
coaching chat at least, so we'll give him
Yeah.
a pass for this one.
Okay, so this is another feature that I would like to talk about
Yeah.
regarding, you can see here what Nash pushes, you know, like Jack 8 off, you can see, sorry, this is Jack 6 off. Whoa. Luckily for us, that went through. Yeah, but you see what I mean, like you can actually check your notes really well. For 10 BB or less, we are calling Nash here, all the min raises, so. When queen repeats, we expect opponent. How deep is he? 700B. Okay. We expect him to have a lot of flush draws, trade draws. King is really bad card for us. I think we have showdown value here, therefore we should check. Like, yeah, I didn't see that we would extract much on river. Like, he has to be super wide for us to call that. Here we have equity to shop, and we shopped on turn. Let's just see something here. Middle position 22%, so he will definitely fold to 3-bet a lot. This hand is great to flat also, Jack 10 suited, but in late game, we are not going to realize a lot of equity. So I prefer to 3-bet it pre-flop. You see here, like 1/3 of the pot is fine. And we lost one table. We should open another. Today I played 97 games, and I would like to mention that PokerStars changed the lobby. I don't know if you guys can see that in your lobbies, but I think it's a really bad change. What they are doing is really bad for poker. They're trying to basically omit the table selection, and that's something. Mira XO is not 3-betting wide enough here. You can see his stats. He flats 4% and he 3-bets like 26%, which is really, really tight. This guy doesn't 3-bet anything. Ace Jack, believe it or not, here is a fold. It's really nitty fold if we are folding Ace Jack, then what are we jamming? But when I'm readless against a guy like that one with 35 hands, even though he seems raggish, I think it's a correct play. Long term, it's a plus EV, because I always expect them to 3-bet my value range until they show me that they are capable of doing it with wider. Oh, this is like really, really bad for flush. We have a blocker for flush. We can still extract value from. Actually, we should shove. There is already 13K in the pot. Yeah, our par. Okay, I was hoping that he has like King 10, Queen 10, Jack 10 type of hand because he's fishy. So yeah, I expected definitely for us to still have a clear value bet on the river there.
Right.
Unfortunately, we got dominated, so it
You-
happens.
Just going back to what you were saying a second ago, you're upset with stars because of what? I didn't. When I opened stars today, I
Yeah.
didn't notice any difference to the lobby.
Well, look at this. I mean, now there is 4 tables, but all day today there was only 2 turbo tables, right? Only 2 turbo tables, and non-turbos also 2 tables. You know, so they were trying to fight against table selecting and bump hunting that way for 15s. But I'm happy to see actually during our coaching they reverse back to the regular format. You know, so I guess that's good. Here. Chica Steve, this guy from Serbia, we can limp call ace queen if we think that he is capable of, you know, this is like the very first 3-bet. Wow. Yeah, let's just raise call here. 35 BB versus fish. I think it's okay to flat tens. I think he has a lot more ace X in his 3-bet. Of course, he has ace king. But now, when this type of turn comes, he's very aggressive, as you can see. He bets flop with 86% of range, turn 75. I'm ready to bluff catch him on river. Queen hits his ace queen, and king queen obviously is there. I think here we should. Oh, when he triple barrels, I expect always to be value hand here, to be honest. Even though it's 1/4 of the pot, he can have Jack 10. Yeah, Jack 10 seems... He can also have missed flush draw. It's really difficult spot here. I think calling off, how many, 51 blinds? Yeah, just give it away and continue to play. Wow, we are getting amazing odds with ace jack here. Should be calling. Yeah, so please go back to your questions. I was just discussing this spot here.
Sure, I'm just listening to your descriptions of these hands, which are still very interesting as always. And one person said video and sound off, but others are saying it's okay, so that's good. You know, one thing that I also wanted to ask you about is I shark scoped you when you first came to me and you say I'll come on this coaching, and I want to make sure that people, you know, mainly we're getting ranks on here, and people where there's going to be some higher level strategy discussion, and you had great results. You know, you're very solid and very consistent. And one thing I'm always interested in is, would people with very consistent results attribute that to? Like,
Yeah,
what are you doing that gives you that kind of consistency?
You have to have periods of really hard work. I'm not the best when it comes to hard work, but when I sit down, I think I'm pretty awesome at that, you know. And I'm not trying to sound like big-headed or anything. I just know when I'm sitting down and actually working on my game, I'm there finding edges against everybody, you know. So it's definitely something that I think it's really important. When it comes to the actual edges in the games, I think it's really important to play regs, both regs and recreational players. I would just like to discuss this hand. As you can see, Mirag so c-bets quite a lot, 76%, which means he has bluffs in his range. We have second pair, 15 BB deep. This is a clear shove for me because he doesn't just have King X. Here, unfortunately, he did. And he has blocker for 6. And we lost that. Maybe he's watching. now I'm really wondering if he's watching that or not. Yeah, but you get the idea.
Yeah, for sure.
Happening. This is a bit wider than S shove. I had one more wider than S shove for 4 BBs, 9-6 suited from cutoff, simply because I think people are also in today's games making a lot of mistakes when it comes to calling versus Nash and things like that. And basically they haven't learned the ranges yet. So going back to what we talked about in the beginning, game plan, everybody needs to do a lot of work on the game plan. 13%, wow, too tight. And also in the late game, people in the ICM are not that good, you know. So that's why there is a lot of, let's call them bad drags. I don't want to label anybody good, bad, you know, just saying from what I've seen. I see a lot of good regs, but I see a lot of regs who make a lot of mistakes. So yeah, let's call those guys who haven't learned Nash and play 15s bad regs, or let's call them guys that just play and don't study enough, you know, or something like that, you know.
Yeah, for sure. So a few comments in the coaching chat. Galeon writes, 56 hands and giving weight to c-bet stats is pretty questionable in general.
Galeon, yeah, that's interesting. I've played Mirag, so this is just in heads up though. The statistic that shows is only for heads up. However, in my opinion, again, I'm talking about what I've seen regs do. They don't adjust their style from previous gameplay, playing blind versus blind, what they do in heads up, you know. And when you see somebody c-bet that much heads up, it's pretty clear that we can exploit them with check raises and raises in general and play them. Oop, this is interesting spot. This is super dry flop. I don't think opponent would ever shove here anything less than a king. So I think tens here fold. I was hoping to see a cheap showdown. I turned tens into a bluff on that spot. I opened under the gun. Guy who we don't have enough hands called. I c-bet to extract value from middle pocket pairs and 9x. But when he check raised, I was just ready to call one street. So I think it's debatable. We could have bet folded, which I think is bad, because, you know, if we bet fold tens, then what are we bet calling? Are we just only bet calling ace king, king queen, aces, sets, or what? That's really small part of our c betting range. So we should really balance what we bet and what we call. But definitely on turn when
E-
he shoves,
Even
he has.
against a recreational player, you're concerned about balancing?
That's a good point. Yeah, in early game there, I don't think we should really care too much about balance. We should play fit or fold. But the board texture suggested to me that when it's King 9x, I always see opponents having broadways and connectors that have draws for straight. He can also have 9x, which is like a second pair there. And they also flat a lot of mid hands, things like, mid pocket pairs, sorry, like fives, sixes, fours, threes, deuces, sevens. They don't three bet that early game, they just flat it. So, considering that, I think on turn, they will not shove mid pocket pairs. They will check them behind. He can try to check raise flop because he's behind. But then on turn, when he bets, I always expect him to bet only king, especially because deuce repeated, so it was another blank. And I think that it actually was working in our favor. It made our life easier, the deuce that repeat itself. If there was an ace or a queen or a jack, it would make our life even more easier. But overall, I think, yeah, I
Okay,
think
perfect.
that was a good line, I think, that we could have used.
So let's go to a couple more things people are talking about. Zoka Kire says the guy on table 3, Roth, the bottom left table, is a Romanian
Ah,
poker strategy coach, which I
yeah,
didn't realize. Galeon
yep.
says that he'd prefer to check call in the 10-6 suited hand on the flop. I think that was against the reg that you've been battling some, who
Yep,
may or may not be on this coaching.
that was against Mirag. So in the heads up for 13 BB, actually it was 16 BB effect. The reason why we don't check call there, why I don't do it, is because we have very shallow stacks. And when we call flop on turn, many times opponent can exploit us with double barrel, especially as a reg. And then we face a really difficult decision because let's face it, we only had the second pair there. There was a flush draw. There were draws for straight. There was a lot of cards, bad cards that could have hit the turn that would have killed the action. So the reason why I checked jam there is simply because I thought I was ahead. I thought that he had C betting in his C betting range, a lot of bluffs. He could have C bet ace X there, you know, and
we
we could have won that hand. Not
Yeah,
just
the
in the.
effective stack was short enough that I like your check shove, but maybe Galeon will elaborate some on why he prefers the check call. And he also
Mhm.
writes the c-bet stance comment was in six-handed versus an unmarked player. So I'm not exactly sure which hand that was, but for sure there are certain stats that take longer to converge, like c-bet, of course, ones like BB fold to steal, fold to
Mhm.
3-bet,
Mhm.
and so definitely something to be careful of. So a good point by him.
Yep.
Um,
Galleon is really cool guy. I would like to say only best things about him, and also I want to give shout out to Roth. He might be my enemy on the tables, but off the tables we chat quite a lot on Skype, and he's really really good player. He's the guy who played cash games. He knows what he's doing with his three bets. He's one of the guys that gives me hard time, and he's in top 5 people when it comes to 15 six max. So definitely a guy that really knows what he's doing.
okay, great. So coaching has about 15 minutes left, and a couple more things I want to make sure we cover. One of them is that I understand recently that you have gotten more into both staking and coaching. Is that correct?
Yes, I was part of staking and coaching with Gerovit that we finished on mutual agreements on February, and since then I've been coaching 7 people. Recently, I extended that. Now I have 4 more students, and I'm looking to extend in near future. So yeah, but my main goal, besides coaching and staking, what I'm doing now is to give back to poker strategy community. It's something that I very very much want to do in very near future if opportunity arises. We could have opened here 6-5 suited. We have 2 fish, but yeah, I thought Mr. Andy V was in the hand, so that was overlooked from my side.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
So what kind of things do you focus on with your coaching if someone comes to you looking for improvement?
Very interesting question. And I think the most important thing, basically going back to what we talked about in the very beginning of the video and the session, is game plan. I spent about, with one of my students from Germany, Bjorn, I'm also giving shout out to him. It took 12 sessions to teach him to beat sevens turbos on stars, because all he did in 12 sessions, he was playing 156 max, and the whole idea was for him to study like crazy and learn what to do with what hands pre-flop and how to act post-flop and how to do this and how to do that, you know. Oh, excellent. He had ace high. We just checked there. We lost minimum amount of chips in that hand. So yeah, game plan is something that I like to focus on first of all. Then I like to talk about post-flop. I like to encourage all my students to work on looking through the hand histories and writing their thinking process. I even encourage them to post on Poker Strategy, which is really cool place to post hands and get the hand reviews. I was doing that when I was starting on 159 max and 150 and 356 max. I think a lot of members can find those funny thinking processes that they had a while back. I'm not saying now they're better, but I hope they have improved somewhat, you know, at least somewhat. But yeah, that's something that they do. And finally, once we get down with the game plan pre-flop, post-flop, learning post-flop, then I really like to get into bubble, learning all these different stack sizes, learning what to 3-bet, what to raise call, what to play against, what type of opponents, because there is a lot of things that you can do in bubble to exploit your opponents. And finally, from recently, I've really done in in April this year, I've done coaching and staking for heads-up hypers, and I think that has boosted my game tremendously. And I believe now I have even more edge that I teach my students in heads-up hypers. So, yeah.
That's great. And so if people on this coaching would like to get coaching from Iliev, how can they do that? Do you have a site, or do they contact you on Poker Strategy?
I am honestly not looking to advertise using tonight's video. Thank you for mentioning all that, though. It's going. I hope people are not going to interpret this. Okay, he came to Collins Moshman's coaching just to advertise his service. Definitely, I wasn't looking for that. Thanks for mentioning that, though. But if people can contact me, they can contact me. Whatever, they can come by my Skype, add me on. Community tool, they can talk to me in my blog. There is a bunch of different ways to contact me. I'm going to be honest and tell everybody that right now at this moment I'm not looking to accept like 10, 20 people. I already have a lot of people that I'm working with, and obviously for exceptional candidates, people that are already playing low stakes, I would love to work with them and get them to be where I'm at, like play 15s and stuff. I'm actually feeling really bad that we didn't get to play 30s. Through all this talking, I didn't load any 30s, but I think we could have won money there, also.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, you just flipping pretty good on some of these. I guess not as good on some others, but I'm sure if you loaded up some 30s, the run good would be activated. But yeah, so just to clarify, Iliev did not ask to promote his coaching, but I am a natural promoter, so I had to do that. Shiva S80, welcome. Gaily on rates, Jack 8 suited would be decent to check back an upper right. I think that's a hand I did not fully catch.
Long gone hand.
Long gone hand.
Unfortunately, I don't remember it now.
And Soka Kira asks a very practical question that I will put to you. It's tough to see your stack size of these tables. Do you find the HUD sort of blocks your ability to see your own stack?
I've just installed this HUD like 2 days ago. So yeah. By the way, take a look at this, Colin. This is what I was talking about. Do you see what I mean with,
so there's only
with
one.
lobbies? And 2 for non-turbo. So
Okay.
It's really, really difficult to table select when you have tables like on micro gaming, which means in May I will be playing every single table on 15 turbos. I think some regs will be happy to take my money. Some will not welcome that as much. But yeah, here's another poker strategy coach, IC George from Czech community. Very happy to see him also.
Awesome.
Yeah, so back to the stats. Here I have this not effective blind size, but actually what every player has in terms of stack. The only problem with this statistic is sometimes not sometimes, but all the times when the blinds change, it doesn't update fast enough. So you can actually think that you have 20 something blind, when in terms you can have like 12 and stuff. So that's really, really tricky thing to deal with, you know.
Right.
And today,
right.
while grinding with this, I'm not going to lie to anybody, I had 2 or 3 misclick min raises that could have been easy shoves, you know. So definitely there is a problem. I agree with a member. Was it, who said that? Can you remind me?
Yes,
Somebody
that was Zoko Kirle, whose name I'm undoubtedly
Zoko Kirle.
mispronouncing.
Cool. Yeah, okay, so yeah, definitely agree with Zoko Kirle, and I think that can be a big problem. But when we are playing 6 tables, right, like now, I can talk comfortably, we can make jokes, laugh, and all that. And, oh, by the way, this is really, really interesting spot on the right. This guy seems like an aggressive fish. He 3-bets a lot. This is a hand to limp call isolation, but when he limp shoves, it's an easy fold. It's something from heads up that I've done. Usually, for me, that would be automatic limp fold. Oh, sorry, raise fold. But when from heads up, to me, it's more like limp calling ISO, limp folding, limp folding to shove, obviously.
Yeah.
So yeah, when we play 6 tables, we can simply put our mouse on our or somebody else's name, and then we get the number of chips. You know. So if we don't see my stack, now you can see it. It's 4,400 chips. So that's something that if members request it, we can do that anytime.
Okay,
It's
perfect.
no problem.
Klampa writes that nothing has changed for the Stars lobby. New tables open when someone sits on the empty one. I think when it comes to my games at least, like I often see multiple $30 9-man turbos with 0 people sitting. Maybe it's different in 6-max though, but I think that there probably would be a change.
Klompa is absolutely right. However, once you see people joining, like you can see here, many times you will need to join one table for another one to open. You yourself. And it doesn't mean that other people need to do it as well, you know. Here we can just limp call. I was expecting this aggro fish to shove over us with some ace-x, but yeah, this is fine too. And like Colin, you were asking me about certain spots. Before, for me, King Jack off was a raise fold. But now, from heads up experience, to me, that's like, you know, a limp calling ISO in this situation. Wow. This guy is like 5xing. He's a star. We should, you know, let's just change the profile. Yep, raise calling here with a6. It's standard move. If I'm min raising, I cannot fold for 6 blinds once I invest 2 blinds, you know. So here, interesting spot for 18 plus blinds, 5s and 4s are raise call in vacuum without knowing the opponent. For 15 blinds, I'm raise calling 7s plus. So Klompa is on chat. He can exploit me in heads up. He can start 3-betting me. You know, really wide 16 BB or less. And then I can extend my calling range there. We had here 7 blinds. I should have just jammed. Min raise is not a good option. Let's see. That opponent flats a lot here.
We have another hand-related question, which was
Sure.
from Galeon. He writes, 5-8 off limped pot on the upper right. You had top pair and check folded.
It might have been that I missed that spot totally. It's not. I don't remember that hand, to be honest. Not as an excuse, but I really don't remember. Top right spot, was it heads up or was it something else or?
I don't know, but that's my fault. He wrote that comment about 4 minutes ago, and I've just read it now. So my apologies. Alien, if you have more hand questions, I will do my best to read them as soon as you type them in. So my bad there. A PT4 has no support to automatically change HUD for heads up. I'm pretty sure it does, actually. So
I don't know it because I went here to the advanced hands. I can show you like in 1 minute. I went there, and what happens is it allows you to set HUDs for different types of games. However, it doesn't give you a function to say, okay, in my 6 max whatever sit and goes, I want you to give me, you know, I want you to give me, when I'm in heads up, I want you to use a certain HUD there. It just allows you to use one HUD per one game. And I've been actually talking to people. I found a guy who is going to create a special HUD for me, and then he's going to sell it later on, because that's the way he plans to make money, which is fine for me. I'm just looking to have a functional HUD when I play heads up and when I play, you know. Okay, let's 3-bet this guy. Yeah, 50%, 12 hands. It's just, I'm always happy when I get a chance to 3-bet somebody. It's like kindergarten stuff, you know. Let's 3-bet this guy. Yeah. So it's just a paired board. Let's try to fold him again from ace high. He seems like a reg with 25-25, but for 12, wow, this shove is like
it's pretty
super
strange.
bad.
Pretty strange shove with any hand you might be holding on that 5-jack
Yeah,
5 flop. You do 3-bet a lot from the blinds. We've seen that in a number of different hands. Can you just tell us a little bit, like, what are you looking for? Are you pretty much just looking for anyone opening wide from the button, and then you're going to 3-bet them with a very wide range?
Well, here I press on pre-flop raise, then I check their stats, and for me, it doesn't necessarily have to be from versus button or cutoff, but those are definitely two positions that people don't or haven't yet adjusted correctly. I'm just going to give shout out to Klomp. I've seen him do some 4-bet wide stuff versus me, which is awesome. I'm not saying anything bad. I'm saying keep up the great work, you know. It's definitely paying off. Here, this guy is first time 3-betting, as in he's 14-7. Against Gem Pop, I'm flatting this, but this is more than 3x 3-bet, so I'm folding it there, you know. And how many chips does this guy have? He has way less than 18 blinds. The blind just went up, so I decide there to raise call. The problem with this card is you can't see opponent's hand there, right? But it's better because then you're not results oriented if you had it or not, you know. And for the end, let's enter one really reg infested game. I hope I entered it. Yeah. So here, Roten is part of Gerovitz now, coaching and staking, student that I used to coach also. And he is now switched to 15s. Rot is really good. Chica Steve, we talked about this guy in the beginning. And we have another reg who is wider than Ash. That's what this color is. So hopefully we can go into some cash in this, beat some rags. You know?
Definitely, although the coaching is going to last about another 5 minutes, so we won't be able to see the end of that game. But
yeah, let's just assume that we won it.
We'll just make that assumption. And on that topic, for all of you guys who may have more questions for Iliev, type them in the next few minutes so we can make sure to get to everything.
I'd like to take opportunity to thank everybody who attended. And I hope that this video will be available somewhere online to watch it later, especially if comments are available, like to check all the questions in the replay and things like that. So I'm really happy to be here and to do this with you, Colin. And I hope that you enjoyed this session.
Very much. It's been great. So tell us what's next for you in the coming weeks. You're planning a move up to 30s. What's going on in your world?
Well, right now, because of coaching and staking others, because I'm investing money, I'm not ready yet to move there because I wouldn't like to go there without minimum 300 buy-ins. Wow, this is interesting. This guy is reg and he actually has like 8% ROI on 3,000 something games. I don't see him ever having here 5x, deuce x, 4x, but he can definitely have king. I don't think he would shove king here though. I think he would just value bet it. So I think calling here with ace high. Top 2. Yeah, that's how you burn money. I just showed you really, really light river call. Maybe he's watching a video too, I don't know. But yeah, I didn't see in his perceived range, I didn't see many 5, 4 or deuce x hands, and I don't really think that it's profitable to just like jam turn there with top 2 pair, or king deuce was like top pair with the bottom kicker, whatever. Like he can extract value on river if he has 2 pairs. So he basically did a great job. I didn't believe him, and he maximized his value there with a shove. Really good job, by the way. As you see, I'm not tilting when I lose.
That's great.
I'm laughing because I'm laughing at my own plays, because I know that it takes a lot of trial and error, and it takes studying, and I'm far from ideal sit and go player, but I'm definitely moving towards that area where I hope I will be one of the best, or maybe best in future. 130 is definitely hoping to move.
Yeah. Mad at other regs, and they always say negative comments and berate them and say they have terrible skills. So I think it's a lot better to keep a more positive attitude. One thing in Tommy Angelo's book, Elements of Poker, he says something that I thought was very interesting, which is that if you're rooting against another player, then you become too emotionally involved in the game. And so I think that praising players at times and keeping a lighter mindset, it really does help when you're playing.
Yeah, I agree, absolutely. It's something that Jared Tendler talks about, negative emotion and tilt. And it's like when people play lesser tables, they tend to always look at the showdown, and they don't realize that once you're just looking at the showdown, you're actually putting a lot thought into and emotions, whether or not you're winning that all-in or not. And that's not the point, especially when you're multi-tabling sit and goes. You should really have a game plan. You should really believe in your game, because if you don't believe, you simply need to work harder. And it's something that King Jack suited, I like 3-betting under the gun. That's like bottom of my suited king. We can flat it, we have position, but if we flat, we face the chance that the opponents might squeeze. And that's the reason why I like 3-betting there, non-all-in.
Well, you like 3-betting everything.
So it was usually ace x and king x, maybe some queen x. Come on.
Okay, fair enough.
It wasn't that wide. but when
you're totally right
video,
about
it
showdowns.
Will be 7-2 soft,
and that's one of the things that I talked about in the multi-tabling video, which is that one of the biggest things I would recommend to anyone is just don't sweat all ins. It's just such a negative, pointless focus.
Exactly. It takes a whole bunch of energy for you, and then you will be thinking, why did that guy keeps beating me? Yeah. Whenever I have ace king, he beats me with small pocket pairs. This poker stars is rigged.
Exactly, yeah.
Why can't I survive a single flip, and things like, and that's not leading anywhere. Then you're in the wrong game, You're playing poker for wrong reasons. You're not mentally ready yet to play the game.
Right, for sure.
I think squeezing here might be too light, but when I see a fish flatting also, we get awesome price to just try to take it here. I definitely don't like flatting ace-9 off out of position. It's something that I wouldn't advocate anybody doing. And of course, now ex-student doing his stuff with 13%, he probably has a value range there within 13% that he 4-bet jams now. So
yeah.
Good job, Stefan. Yeah.
So Galian writes, one should have confidence in own game but not be overconfident, which are wise words. Soki Curley writes, with the king jack suited, in the first situation you just flatted, and the second situation you 3-bet. Why?
I think it was king queen suited, not twice king jack suited, if I remember, and it was a different position. I was sitting further down the table. I think when I flatted, I was cut off for button. Now when I 3-bet, I was like middle position or something, and that's simply because readless. I expect people still under the gun to fold. What I've seen in sit and goes, people open from under the gun minimum 10% of their range. Once you 3-bet them, their super thin, super value range is like jacks plus an ace king. Nobody's ready in the early game to 4-bet you with tens or nines. I mean, all respect to Klompa and other good regs, there aren't many who do that. So they don't have their game plan what to do when they face a 3-bet. And I'm happy when opponent flats tens, nines, eights versus my 3-bet because I'm playing in position and I have a great hand. King Jack suited flops well, and I like playing out of position. And I think people are very uncomfortable playing in 3-bet pots. So that's something that I definitely like to exploit versus a lot of opponents. This is like interesting, super interesting hand. Button opens only 12%. This is a super easy fold with fives versus reg that's like a super easy 3-bet for 19 blinds. So it's really important to use your stats and not rush your decisions in late game. It can cost you a lot of money,
Okay, perfect. Soka Curly says that they actually were the same positions, but I'll kind of feel this one. I don't remember what the first spot was. I remember the second one very well. But you don't always have to make the same decision. I mean, for one thing, the stats can play a role, and even just kind of what you're feeling at the moment, right? Like, no one's going to say, flatting is clearly much better than 3-betting. And so if some of the time in two similar spots you're 3-betting once and flatting another, that's just kind of part of the game, in my mind at least.
And I'm going to totally agree with you and add one more thing there. When I'm doing this, sometimes, like you said, I'm 3-betting, sometimes I'm flatting. But the most important thing is I can do this, and I actually do this with top of the range as well. So if you just do this with with your bluffing ranges and stuff, or semi-bluffing ranges, hands that flop well, you're going to be very exploited with people starting to 4-bet you, And that's something that you definitely don't want to have. So definitely sometimes I might 3-bet aces, sometimes I might flat them, depending in out of position, how my opponent plays. Cut off 18%. This is actually quite good. And interesting to discuss here, because here we could flat for set mining, but with small pocket pairs, I really like taking initiative pre-flop, because post-flop, many times you will not hit a set, and if you just play fit or fold, then you shouldn't really, play them at all. That's just my opinion from this perspective of my knowledge now,
Right.
Before I used to flat them, play them fit or fold, but that's just really, really bad play to do,
Perfect. Okay. So I'm going to ask you just one last question here, and after that, if anyone else has anything else, definitely let me know, and I'll put it to Iliev, and otherwise we're going to end things. And the last thing I want to talk about was a little bit of the swings of 6-max, and you said that to move up to 30s you wanted a minimum of 300 buy-ins. Do you think that the swings in 6-max SNG are that intense that swinging, say, 200 buy-ins might happen to a good winning player?
Excellent question, Colin. Yeah, the thing about that is before, when I was not such a good player, when I played party poker, when my knowledge was not nearly at this level now, I had 300 buy-ins downswing pre-rake back, 300 buy-ins. So I always remember that, and I want to be ready for it. That's one of the things. Second thing, 30s today on stars, they are very reg infested. With nit regs, true. I think 30s are actually easier than 15s today, because a lot of the people are actually, I like here flatting, that's the situation. I see George. I want to extract value from other players as well.
Yeah, I like it, for sure.
So here we are going to just get it in because it's a full stack. If somebody has a set of 8s, 7s, kings, then it's our bad play pre-flop. But yeah, he raises here, I'm hoping for ace king here. I'm hoping. Let's look at that. We just talked about how we shouldn't look. and now we're paying
showdowns
attention.
Can be.
Woo!
You're free rolling him. Come on.
Oh, I see George. You little devil. He's doing really well. So yeah, we were talking about swings. So basically, if you play against a lot of regs, and like me, I'm planning when I move to 30s not to play 50 games a day. I'm planning to play 100 plus games a day, because in order to materialize my hourly and multi-table and for 30s to pay off compared to 15s what I make now, I really need to be detached from money in terms of, okay, today I lost whatever 50 buy-ins, that's 1.5k, you know. And I don't want to think about, oh Jesus, 1.5k, that's 100 buy-ins on 15s. I could have played there. I just want to say, okay, I have 9k. Come on, play your EV I played this year like lol sample, like 100 something games, and my EV is between 3 and 4% there. And I think I have even more edge on 30s than on 50s. It's just the money matter. I might even decide, if I don't roll myself to offer action on poker strategy, hopefully some people are going to be interested to, you know, to buy a piece, free roll me to my way on 60s, you know. So here I'm double barreling because I think uh, ace high type of hands will call us, you know, and the queen and jack. When he calls turn, our double barrel, he could be calling a flush draw that he caught there, or simply he could have a mid pocket pair that's stronger than ours, like eights, nines. So triple barreling there, I don't like. I like calling thin bet, like a smallish bet. Let's just see. He had ace queen, excellent. So he definitely called double barrel with ace high, which is what I was assuming there in the first place. And of course, make a hand available for review. Here, calling down with queen high is too loose, in my opinion. We can raise because he c-bet 60%. But on pair boards, I think people are not ready to fold their ace highs, you know. He's not going to say, oh, this guy has fives, let me fold ace 10. He's just going to flat to that raise. So I just decided to give it up there. I think it's more profitable long run to play that way. So yeah, speaking of swings, to finish it off with swings, definitely I recommend anybody who is playing limits that are higher with better players, always be rolled enough and don't be, you know, scared, money scared, so to say, when you're playing people that are really close to your skill. So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dozoko Curious's last question is the flatting with AA correct? It's not something to normally do, but in that spot, the two remaining players who are still sandwiched in were both recreational players, and they're going to be a lot more likely to come in the pot and make a significant mistake if we flat. So I think that was the main reason behind it, and I did like that play.
Yeah, because they will give us more money post-flop when we just flat. They are going to stack off with their really, really early position, 40%. This guy should be raise calling here for 15 BB. I hope that he has something like 10s plus, 9s plus, ace jack plus. Actually, ace queen is usually what they're raise calling, but here he was bluffing. So.
Oh well.
Yep.
So that is going to end things. Thanks again so much to our special guest Iliev for coming on and showing us how he clobbers the 6 max games. Much appreciated.
Thank you, Colin, for having me, and I hope in future, whenever you need me, I can jump in and help out with, you know.
That would be great. We'd love to have you back on. And thanks so much to everyone for tuning in. A lot of regulars coming on. So Paradic, Gilian, Tony PMM, and everyone else, we very much appreciate it.
Amazing group of people. Yeah, thank you guys all for attending. I hope you enjoyed session with Colin. And thank you, Colin, for all your questions. It was really fun to do this. I really hope that, you know, we'll do this sometime in the near future. And hopefully we become colleagues on poker strategy.
I hope so as well. I will definitely give you my endorsement live on air right here. And if they come to ask me, I will say we need more 6max content and suggest coaching from Iliev. So Zokar Kile, thanks very much. Galion Paradek and Egalitarius, as usual, coming on. That's great. KiniXX, Zakarak, Shivas80, Landrama12. So we will see you guys next week. Have a good one.
See you guys.